hello, good morning. It's your old mate Dave Spencer, back with you once again, off on another one of our transport adventures, this time to look at the buses in Birkenhead in July 2025. So what are we going to see? Well, of course, we shall see what we shall see. And it's going to be great having you along with us. So I better get cracking. There's some changes going on, some road works going on. I'm not sure what's happening at all, but all change is good, isn't it? Because it gives us something different to look at most of the time. I'll catch up with you in a bit. Ta-ra for now. Oh, the first of the new yellow liveried buses, which are gradually creeping through Merseyside, just as they did in Warrington and in Manchester. So the northwest is yellow. The franchise idea catching on in several areas around the country, and obviously means quite fundamental changes to how bus services are provided, applying the sort of things that work in London to the provinces. In Manchester it's had a mixed reception, generally speaking, pretty poorly thought out really. And the buses do struggle to turn up, keep the time, etc. So anything like that, it was going to make better, it actually made worse. The electrification of the bus services, many of the electric buses promised for delivery haven't, even now, 2 years or more after the start of it, they're still not arrived. So it's not all roses, you know, but as I said before, changes, it gives us something different to look at. We've got something different to look at here, haven't we, with the roadworks. What are they doing? Oh, the beautification of Birkenhead. Goodness me. Oh dear. That quaint little fishing village. it's always good to film when there's change under progress, because it didn't look like this before, and it's not going to look like this when it's finished. And I had that situation in Hull the other day. The roadworks there have been going on for, seems like 20 years, and probably about 3 or 4 years, and they're still not finished. And I'm filming the lorries there, slightly different positions, not, you know, the most ideal of conditions, but something that's not going to stay that way forever. They were building an underpass on the ring road to speed things up, because getting things speeded up means that they're going to go a lot slower in the meantime. But we get there in the end, don't we? Wave from the driver, got a nice wave from the police when they went by. So everybody's on the best of terms this morning. Can't be bad. Well, there's nothing like a rear view, is there? And there we were. We've had some strange weather this summer. Well, summer was more like a spring and a heat wave. And then as we got towards the school holidays, of course, the weather went down and down, and has remained in our area cloudy for day after day. And every time we put the news on at night, they tell us how sunny it's been somewhere, but not here. I will take a sniff down there by the bus station before we leave. It could be that everything's coming in and going out at the same places, so that would be an improvement. Not the easiest of places to film at. You know what the Merseyside PTE is like, yes? Oh, goodness me. For enthusiasts, shall we say. And this, of course, is a relatively short-lived livery for Stagecoach, already replaced by the slate blue colour scheme. Somebody's blocking the bus stop down there. Car parked on it. Not very helpful, was it? Trainer. Oh, lingering a bit there. There's not much happening in the other direction, so we can linger longer. Up and away. A bit of a nostalgia trip on liveries here. nod back to the Crosville days. Over in Manchester, heritage liveries under franchising are forbidden, but the way round it is all the driver trainers, which aren't covered, are female heritage buses now. Yes, wonderful, wonderful stuff. Saw a glorious one of a Lancashire United livery just over at Doyle Street in Manchester. They had a Bury 100 celebration. Wasn't that much Bury there, but what a glorious weekend it was. Thumbs up there, and we've got a little bit of a parade. Yes, we've come through the tunnel and survived. Oh yeah. Well, we've been coming here for a long time, haven't we? We've been coming here for a long time. How long the time was it, Dave? It was a very long time. Yes, I first came here on the Wirral, filming what would have been Crosville mainly then, back in the days when I was in the Crosville Enthusiasts Club. Bill Barlow still around from those days. Jeff Mayles, another person I bumped into him fairly regularly. I learnt a lot on the old Crosville Club outings. Also on the Ribble Enthusiasts Club with Tom Collins. There's a blast from the past. And visited all sorts of places I probably never would have gone to. And particularly as we sort of headed down to the southern fringes of Crosville, not over in Wales, but in the on the English ones, where we sort of met up with the potteries, and that gave me an interest in the potteries. Potteries' most attraction. Wow, what a company, what a heritage they had. Amazing. And of course all the independents. Yes, Beresfords and all. Beresford, yeah, to go and take pictures in his yard, you have to send him, promise, you know, so I hereby undertake to supply about 100 copies of what I've taken, and you know, oh, he's a funny old character, but what a day for buses there. Stevenson's of Uttoxeter, wow. What about when they ran the Burton services for a while? I was in Burton recently, catch sight of the new electric buses for Diamond, and also the last of the buses in the heritage livery, Midland Classic. The wind's really getting up now. It's amazing. Where's this come from? The wind chill factor at the moment feels about 10 degrees perhaps. How's that for the beginning of August? The 1st of August 2025. It's freezing. Well, that's a British summer for you, isn't it? I knew we'd pay for having all that heat back in May and June. Oh, as soon as the kids went on holiday, that was it. Boing! The temperature plummets. And when the temperature plummets, I plummet too. That's nice. We get another shot of the Crosville Heritage bus. That's nice. We won't say no to that, will we? In fact, do it slowly, or do it quick. Hit me! Oh no, gosh, we're not getting off into songs, are we? The Endurian, the blockheads, goodness me. It's just the last stuff I really listened to, really, in the pop world. Was probably in that era. Yeah, when punk was having its day, I was over working in Ireland. Ireland had its own sort of version of punk. Honestly, I'm not joking. It did. Oh, you know, I recorded a lot of the programmes from RTE when they covered the punk scene. Like their sort of top of the pops type of thing. And I'd have wished I'd still got those tapes. Oh gosh, they must have been copied over about 100 times since. But Mandy used to record Coronation Street in Emmerdale and what have you for me on VHS tapes, and then I could take them back when I came on my sort of weekend leave once a month. These days you'd be working over there, you'd virtually be commuting, wouldn't you? Imagine coming home once a month. You only got 4 days. A day travel each way, 2 days in between. But it helped pay for our first house. We got married in 74, and by 75 we were moving into our first house in Chiltern Pond Hardy in Manchester. And it wasn't long before we'd paid it off. So working away had its disadvantages, but it had some advantages. I was already interested in buses. I ended up duplicating the Irish Omnibus Circles newsletter, put it through the copier at work. Very crude copiers in those days. 1979, I think we still had those wet copiers. Oh, it was a stinky ammonia, stunk of ammonia. Who remembers that? Of course, we used to have things like telex machines then. It's all like another world, really, wasn't it? Amazing, amazing. I was there, I know. 1960s, I was there. Well, if you were there, you don't remember it, and I remembered little. Really up into the 1960s, born in the early 50s. So my teen years were really the 1960s. What a time to be a teenager. What music. Trying to sort of get hold of Radio Luxembourg, and then finally we had the Pirates, Radio Caroline, Radio London. And you used to have these teeny little transistor radios, very crude little things, and you'd sort of have that inside your school blazer and a lead going up your sleeve and a plug little earphone in your ear, and you could sit and enjoy all that wonderful music as Tony Blackburn still pumps it out in the early hours of each Saturday morning. Long may it remain so. Definitely the best era ever for pop music. There's some quite lengthy breaks between buses. Like all buses, of course, once one comes, then you'll get a couple together. I'm going to leap up on a vantage point to get this one. Very high up on Eagle's perch for this. And he spins around to take us up around the roundabout. And then he's breaking his leg in the process. It wasn't just good for Mersey bus. The Crosville and Ribble were also very much part of the scene, linking into the surrounding country, and it gave, I think, a vibrancy to the bus scene on Merseyside that's sort of not really ever existed again. Perhaps just after the deregulation, when we had the multitude of little independent operators, but for the big operators, I don't know, sort of didn't quite sort of ring true to its heritage, to my mind. Well, we've seen them come, we've seen them go, we've seen the liveries tried, the liveries pass, We've seen buses come aplenty from down in London, and we're still having a wonderful time with it as sponsors of the Northwestern Vehicle Restoration Trust, the Northwest VRT as we call it for short. Thank goodness for that. It's a mouthful in it, I know. It took me a bit to get used to saying all that. connections with the Merseyside area. They go back a long way, and particularly through my adopted parents. My dad, he grew up, and they were up in the north of Liverpool. My granddad, after service in the King's Regiment, he joined the tramways as an inspector and was also the bandmaster of the tramway band in Liverpool. my first trip to Liverpool, I think I was 4 years old. That was 1956. I know my granddad was really upset that the trams were no longer running and he couldn't show me one. And I seem to recall he bought me the tiny little early sort of original series matchbox model of the London tram. I was suitably delighted with it. I had all sorts of toys, really. I must have got into sort of military stuff along the way, but I'd had all sorts of stuff that passed through my hands in those days was nobody's business. But I remember probably the best was one of the great big dinky toys, you know, in the stripy blue and white box, and I had a petrol tanker. I think I got while I was in hospital. I had whooping cough, which in those days could be a killer, and so I was quite poorly. I was only young, I think I was very young, and I threw it off the balcony, and it got a bit sort of bruised, shall we say. I think it cost them a lot of money buying that for me, because we were only in a sort of council house. The old man was a bricklayer. Could have been better, could have been a teacher, but didn't really have the drive in that direction. As I grew up, I think he had 3 or 4 jobs on the go just to make ends meet. I think there was something there a little bit more than I sort of made out. I don't know. Could have been something like gambling. I'm not sure. He died when I was a teenager. Poor old devil. Anyway, I've got his medals mounted. They're just inside our front door, and these 2 mouthpieces. He was a military bandsman, and after regular service played with the Territorial Army. When he'd moved down south to Sussex, he was in the Sussex Yeomanry Band. And I'm still in touch with one of the children of another Eddie Kieran, and another member of the band, and Eddie was the band sergeant, George was, my dad was the corporal. We're doing okay here, aren't we? A few trips down memory lane, and even the heritage bus. The first picture I took of transport, I think, was on my second journey to Liverpool, which I think I must have been about 12 years old. Might have been 11. Actually, there might have been another trip in the middle that I've sort of forgotten about, because when I look at the pictures, I'm sure I'm about more like 6 or 7. Actually, there was 3 trips. Well, it was a right old journey. You know, you went from Eastbourne on the train up to Victoria, and then you had to change trains, and or you get on a steam train then. Yep. And the glory years of steam. I remember it going through the water troughs. Terrifying noise, screeching as it picked up water. I remember before the journeys I'd make all sorts of notes. So the parents were quite helpful in guiding me onto things like geography, which I'm really glad about. And I made a list of all the stations that we were going to go through on my way up to Liverpool. It seems such an amazing distance to go. We didn't have money for, there was no flight to things like Spain or whatever. And going on a train was a big thrill. Most of the network where I was part of the that biggest of electric train sets, Southern Electrics, which I grew up with a tremendous respect for not going near rails, of course, because it was all electrified. It was naughty spinning around, but there we go, why not? Yes, that's a very short-lived delivery, that one. And new buses were still being received in that livery in the stagecoach group, particularly over Chesterfield. They all arrived in those colours, which have already been succeeded by the slate grey. We've not seen one in slate grey today. In every depot it's supposed to have one, but perhaps here they're going yellow instead. Swivelling going on here. Oh Dave, I'm feeling seasick. I know. Worry about that. We must go around corners. They're coming from all directions. Keep up, Dave, keep up. I'm getting old, you know. Birkenhead. Hope you enjoyed your visit. Excuses for the blustery wind, but of course none. I can't control the weather. And it has been a blowy old trip. It's been great having you along with us. It always is. Stay well, stay safe, be good, and if you can, be kind to others, because one way and another we're living through some quite difficult times, aren't we? And meanwhile, from Mandy, who's back at home in Cheshire, and for myself over here on the Wirral, it's God bless. See you all again soon, and take care. Bye everybody.